afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the 50th anniversary of the Matt's Truck Show. Just to give you guys a little bit of information about the Etnyre company. We've been coming to Matt's for about 20 years or so. But back in 1989, Etnyre purchased the Heister Trailer Company and brought the product back to Etnyre and began building Lowboy trailers. Personally, I've been involved with the Lowboy trailer line from the inception. I was sent to the Heister Trailer Company, put it in a box, brought it back to Etnyre's, unboxed it, and began building Lowboy trailers in production. So we've been in the Lowboy trailer business for about 33 years. And I started out working in manufacturing and worked my way all the way through the trailer business, all the way up into sales, and I'm currently the product manager of the Lowboy trailers at the Etnyre company. So what I want to talk to you about today is about how to purchase a Lowboy trailer and purchase the correct Lowboy trailer. I've talked with many customers over the years, and I get this, God, I just bought a Lowboy trailer last year, but you know, it really doesn't do what I wanted it to do, so now I've got to buy another one. So I thought that I would go through some things and give you some tips and tell you some things about Lowboy trailers and maybe how to buy the right Lowboy trailer. And being this is Matt's, and many of the over-the-road truck drivers come to this show, so many of you are looking for a little bit different Lowboy trailer. I mean, you can buy a Lowboy trailer for a lot of different things. You might be buying a Lowboy trailer to haul yellow iron on. You might be buying a Lowboy trailer to move some type of freight across the country. You might be buying a Lowboy trailer to move some very highly specialized freight. We've been a member of the Specialized Carriers and Riggers Association for several years. The Specialized Carriers and Riggers Association is a group of companies that move oversized and permittable loads across the country. It consists of companies such as Keene Transport, Landstar, Daily Transport, some of the biggest carriers, ATS. I don't know, maybe you've heard of many of these companies, and maybe some of you work for them. Some of you are probably owners and operators, and some of you maybe broker out to these companies and haul for them, but a lot of them leave it up to you to buy your own trailer. We are also members of the National Trailer Dealers Association. We have been for the last 6 years. This is also a good organization that lobbies to change the laws in the trailer industry for all of you. We've been a member of this organization for 6 years. So most of you, or some of you, maybe are moving dry van freight. You know, you see all of the van trailers. This show has a lot of van trailers in it. And you basically are moving 80,000 pounds gross weight in that. I mean, it's pretty much cut and dried. Flatbed freight, 80,000 gross. Container freight, 80,000 gross. Liquid freight, tank trucks, gasoline tankers, 80,000 gross, and dry bulk back trailers, 80,000 gross. Most freight being moved in this category is a divisible load, and you can only haul 80,000 pounds, providing you can scale the axles on your trailer and your truck. This freight is very competitive to move. This type of freight often pays better due to the requirements of having special equipment to deliver the load. This is the overweight and overdimensional freight. There can be less competition with competitors that can move these types of loads. Why not buy a lowboy to move the overweight and overdimensional freight? So that's what I want to talk to you about. You can haul many different loads. You can haul oversized, overdimensional freight. You can haul heavy permit loads. You could haul yellow iron, which would be your excavators, your wheel loaders, your earth movers, and you can haul loads that pay more that others can't. And that's what you really want to look for. Specialized loads that require specialized trailers to move them. Customers are willing to pay more to get their specialized freight hauled. What would be the best truck? People oftentimes ask me, what is the best truck to move freight? Well, I have my own choices, and I know a lot of you have your own choices about what type of truck. But I think the best truck is a lightweight truck with a short wheelbase and around a 50-inch loaded fifth wheel height, with a good long sliding fifth wheel plate where you can get your fifth wheel plate beyond the center line of the suspension, with a pusher axle and a 20,000-pound steer. So you can utilize that steer axle to get weight up on it. So you don't need as many axles on the trailer. Now, a lot of people like to get a big sleeper on the back of their truck, and that's all right. I mean, you walk around the show, you're going to see great big sleepers. And we build trailers to work with those great big sleepers. Those guys will find the right loads, and we'll make the right trailer for that. The real way to get the right truck to work with the right lowboy trailer is to record your tractor data. No matter who you buy your lowboy trailer from, you can get your tractor data turned into them so you can buy the right trailer to fit your truck. Now, at Etnyre, we can give you tractor data sheets for your tandem axle trucks, your tri-axle trucks, whatever your truck is. We can send these sheets to you, you fill them out. We can make sure you get the right swing clearance for your truck. We can make sure that you have the right fifth wheel height so you can utilize getting the right deck heights and the right clearances, and you can also slide the fifth wheel forward to get weight up on your steer. So all manufacturers can do that. It's a very critical point that you need to know. The next question is, what model of a trailer, of a lowboy trailer, do you want? There are several models of lowboy trailers. I have some books up here on this front table. You guys are more than welcome to take them if you would like. I have them back at our booth in the show. We're at booth 3445, 34045. My cards are also up there if you would like a card. But there are several models of lowboy trailers. I have many, many people that come to me and don't even know what model they want. So the most popular model of a lowboy trailer today is a hydraulic detachable gooseneck. A lot of people are still using mechanical detachable goosenecks. They take a little bit longer to get them apart, to get them loaded. They're a little bit more cumbersome, a little bit harder to work. We can build a lighter hydraulic detachable gooseneck today, so it's not so important to have the mechanicals any longer. Fixed neck lowboy trailers We sell a few of those still, but not a lot. Hydraulic folding gooseneck trailers, they're big, they're heavy, they're expensive. They do have a purpose. Some people still like them. They're mechanical folding gooseneck trailers. They're basically about the same as a hydraulic, just a little bit more cumbersome to operate. And the rear loading ramp type trailers. And then we get down to what configuration of a lowboy are you looking for? Weight, length is important, width, height, the capacity, the number of axles, and the axle spacing. All these things are critical to make up the lowboy trailer that you want and actually get that lowboy trailer to a usable weight to work with your truck. We found that the best practice is to use 100,000 PSI steel, which in the industry, most people call that T1 steel. And the reason for that is we can use less steel to make the trailer lighter so you can haul more payload on it. Just recently, they have developed some steel that's called 130,000 PSI. So that has allowed us to use even less steel, but we have had to put a little bit more camber in the trailer and pitch in the rear. Which, and a little bit forward here, I will talk about camber and pitch. A lot of people have questions about that and the height. I'm going to help you understand that a little bit. The next question is, do you want an East Coast trailer or a West Coast trailer? I don't know how many of you have had this question arise or know what an East Coast trailer is or a West Coast trailer. But I have an illustration here that shows what an East Coast trailer and a West Coast trailer is. The top of this is an East Coast trailer with a spreader bar in it, or an axle extension, as I like to call it. A lot of people have a lot of different names for it, but you can see that axle extension is, the back axles are on a hill and the lower axles are off the ground. Well, there's no flexibility in that bar, so that's technically what happens. The trailer axles get lifted off the ground and a lot of the weight goes into that axle extension and it can cause damage. But what makes that popular is people like to be able to still use that trailer without that axle extension as a 3-axle trailer when they don't need to have the extra axles. Well, they think that they're going to use it that way, but you'll find as you go along that the trailer is still a big, heavy trailer, and it's not as useful that way. It's useful to a certain point, but the West Coast trailer, however, the one below it, actually, in its extension, the beam keeps even weight on the axles. It actually walks over rough terrain and the wheels stay on the ground and do not get damaged. I highly prefer the West Coast trailer, but the downfall is you really can't use the trailer without the rear axles. So that's really the big difference between an East Coast and a West Coast trailer. If you're going to run into California, they're only going to let you run a West Coast trailer in there because they want even weight distribution on the road. They won't allow you to bring an East Coast trailer in. As I was talking there, the East Coast trailers people try to use as 3-axle trailers, but are generally, the base trailer is generally too heavy as a 3-axle trailer to haul a lot of different freight on. You're going to need your extra axles to move loads. And the East Coast trailers bridge easier, and the axles can be picked up off the ground, and you can cause damage to it. The West Coast trailers are easier to operate, easier to set up, and less likely to bridge on rough terrain, but not good to use as a 3-axle trailer. So when you hear that term, that's the difference between East Coast and West Coast. And mainly the terms got developed because out west you need to have a West Coast trailer to run in a lot of the states, primarily California. So capacity for the load. So as you're thinking about the lowboy trailer that you're going to buy, so say you're going to the board to see what kind of freight's out there and what that freight's moving for. I mean, they're loads, and loads pay all different kinds of dollars to move them. So you're probably going to look for loads that pay good. That's the kind of freight you want to go after. And what's that capacity? So you want to pick a lowboy trailer that's the right capacity so that you can make good money with the trailer and marry it to the truck that you want to use. So what's the weight of the load you'll be hauling? What is the height of the load you'll be hauling? What is the length of the load you'll be hauling? The width? And you will need multiple options, okay? So what are you gonna do when you get that load off, the one that pays the big dollars for you? What are you gonna bring back? What kind of load are you gonna bring back on that trailer? So you want to keep it moving all the time. So a little tip about a low deck versus a standard deck. Long trailers, low decks, goosenecks, and rear sections are heavy and expensive. Short trailers, tall decks, goosenecks, and rear sections are light and more cost-effective. These are 2 points to be aware of when making your desired specifications of a lowboy. So a lot of times when you see a lowboy trailer and, you know, the gooseneck looks big, it's tall. Tall is light. Real low is heavy and it's expensive. But today everybody wants things that are low. Always keep in mind low is heavy and low is expensive. Now there's a lot of ways to get low. I mean, you can do it with smaller tires. There's just a lot of different things you can do. I want to talk about camber and pitch a little bit. I'm sure that a lot of people don't get a chance to really understand the camber and the pitch in a trailer. And as you probably, a lot of you have walked around the show, I don't know how many of you have gotten all the way out to the Pride and Polish. But outside of the Pride and Polish, there's some trailers out there that have what they call a mini deck in them. And there's no better way to see the camber and a pitch in a trailer than to look at a mini deck. And what a mini deck is, it's a deck that's really skinny. It's got a real skinny beam in it. They're about 8 inches. If you look at that, at the top picture here, showing all the camber in that beam, you can see the arch in it, the curve, and then you look at the rear section, how it's pitched to the rear. And that's the state that the trailer is in when it's not loaded. So then the load jumps on that trailer and it gets flat and level. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. So all of the dimensions that you'll be given will be in the loaded position. So the only way to get the height that you're looking for is to get the full capacity payload on it. So as you're thinking about what you're going to move and how tall it is and big it is and how heavy it is and what you're looking at to buy for a lowboy trailer, you got to think about how heavy it is and what height you're going to have to run that at so that it flattens out to get to those heights. So the camber and pitch can be very important. Now there are other ways to control the camber and pitch. I mean, you could get a detachable rear bridge, and you can control it with shimming. That's one way. You can control it by setting the gooseneck at different heights, which we'll get to a little bit here when we get to the book. The book is a training book, by the way, so you know, I highly recommend that you get a copy of the book so you can keep the information. And now the rest of the training is through the book. So these are some different models of trailers. These are all hydraulic detachable lowboys here on this page, but just some different configurations. When we get to this page here in the book, I've got this divided up, so as you can see here, and we got the gooseneck, the deck, the rear, the axle extension, and the flip axle. I think I had a young lady come by the booth, and she was writing permits, okay? So she wanted to know what a flip axle was. She keeps writing permits, and she didn't know what a 9-axle was, but she keeps getting permits for them. So she wanted to know what a flip axle was, and I explained it to her, and I said, well, if you come to my training session, you can learn what a flip axle is. So this page here is right in the front of the book, and it will tell you all of the parts of a lowboy trailer, so that if any of these parts are something that you would require in the lowboy trailer that you want to purchase, you know how to describe them and make sure you get the right thing. So as I was talking before about controlling your height, okay, if you get the right fifth wheel height on your truck, you can control the height on an adjustable height hydraulic gooseneck. On our trailer, you can do it by simply moving the lever. There's 5 different positions that you just move that lever to those positions and you can adjust the height. The gooseneck raises to clear obstacles so you can get the low deck underneath of it. This also changes the height of the deck. And then the book goes through a lot of the different features and options that you can add to a gooseneck. What the heck? Go back. Taking off on me here. So here are several different goosenecks. There's a regular standard gooseneck in the top left corner. We were talking about depth and height. Well, there's a low profile gooseneck, the second one down. And there's the one at the very bottom is a flip under hat box extension. And as you start to use Jeep dolly goosenecks, you can see how much taller the beams get. Remember I told you the taller the beam, the lighter the beam. Well, as you get bigger and longer, the beams have to get bigger and heavier. Now these are different model goosenecks here. Fixed goosenecks, mechanical removable, and folding goosenecks. Then it moves into decks. What kind of deck do you want for your lowboy trailer? This page is nothing but different decks. We have drop side decks for getting your height down. We have a flat floor. We have a beam deck. We have lowered flat floors. We have the paver style decks. They're basically made for loading pavers and rollers. And down here in the bottom left-hand corner, that's actually a well deck, what we call a well deck for And this is just some different options on how to get onto the decks. And the bucket wells and the extension brackets and storage baskets that you can add to the decks. And these are some pop-up ramps and some other added features that can be put into decks, some wheel pockets, get them lower. Then we go into rear sections. Rear sections can be open. They can have covers over the wheels. We do a lot of different covers. And then we get into the fourth axles. And in the past at the shows, we've brought a lot of hydraulic flip over fourth axles. It's become real popular. In the old days, people just took a backhoe or a forklift or something and flipped the axle over, but nowadays, with people using the fourth axles to move stuff across the country, they like to have the ability to flip that axle over all by themselves. So we put hydraulics on it to do that, and we can do that and make your trailer light. We also can flip the hat boxes over on the front with hydraulics. We also can flip over a stinger bar, as you see down in the bottom. We had done that in past shows. And we also make hydraulic boosters to extend the axles. This page is just some beaver tails. In the old days, a lot of people like to load from the rear, so this is a collection of beaver tails and rear ramps. And back to the different models of trailers. These are paving trailers here. It's one model that we do sell. It's a rear loading paving trailer. Some more rear loading paving trailers. Folding tails. These are the mechanical removing necks, aluminum pullouts. I think a lot of you probably have seen those. A lot of people still use these to move farm equipment. They have the low decks, long decks. We do a lot of extendables. Back to what kind of trailers do you want to move the freight? Extendables, actually, a lot of these long loads today are paying real good. We do a lot of extendables, and then you can close that deck up and find you a backhaul. Hydraulic folders we still do. Like I said, those are going out of style. They're a little bit heavy. Still a few of them being built. You start getting into the more custom stuff. You start running the Jeep dollies, and you get into the multiple axle trailers. The little red trailer in the middle is a combine trailer for moving a combine, and that's got the combine rack on the back. And then as we get into the back of the book, we get into all kinds of different spread axle configurations. So this is where you really gotta get into to getting your truck right and what you really want to do with your trailer, how big you want to go up into the 80-ton, 90-ton range, 333s, 222s, 232s. As you get all the way through the book, we get into just a collection of different configurations that work in different areas in different states. Trailer on the bottom is a hydraulic East Coast booster. The one at the top is a West Coast trailer. So that's a good picture of both models right there. And these are, the one at the top's a hydraulic detachable gooseneck. The one at the bottom is a hydraulic power tower. The difference in those two trailers right there is the one at the top probably weighs about 66,000 pounds, and the one at the bottom weighs about 53,000 pounds. The one at the bottom's an 85-ton, and the one at the top is 70-ton. So there's a lot of different things. The one at the bottom has the disc brakes and the pan 17 disc brakes on it, and the 17.5 rubber, and it's just built so much different that we were able to save that much weight. So that's why it's so critical to know what type of loads you're trying to go after. If we know what type of loads you're trying to go after and what type of trailer you want to build, you can certainly work towards building that correct lowboy trailer for you. Just a couple more configurations we've done. A couple old-fashioned 13s there. Aluminum pull-out. And that's pretty much the end of the slide presentation. So you guys have any questions I can answer for you? How long it could be? Well, the legal limit per trailer is 53 feet. It's going to depend on what you want for an axle configuration. How long? That's the swing clearance. You can, that tractor data sheet I gave you, you have to measure from the center of your fifth wheel plate out to the farthest point on your truck. Okay? You can do that either by measuring it at an angle. If you fill that sheet out and you send that in to us, we can determine your swing clearance. But we need to know how far your fifth wheel plate slides so you can utilize all that, okay? If you're going to measure it, you want to put it in the most forward position because you want to be able to use that swing clearance so you can get all that weight up to the steer, see? And you want to make sure you have a big enough steer axle. So if your steer axle is not a 20,000 pound steer, maybe you only have 14, and you know, maybe it already weighs 12, so you can only put 2,000 pounds up there. So now maybe you don't need that long a slide. So it all depends on if you got a tandem axle tractor, or you got a tandem with a pusher axle in front of that, and then how far that slide goes. And then what you have for an axle in the front and how you want to utilize it. So I always say the first thing you want to do is get the right truck and with the right wheelbase, depending on what it is you're trying to accomplish with it. Right. I'll tell you right now, it's hard to scale 110,000 pounds on a 55-ton trailer. You probably can do about the best I've seen anybody do with an axle extension and the right truck and a 114-inch swing. I've seen them do about 107,000. Yep. That's what a truck with a 20,000-pound steer, a pusher, a tandem axle, a 3-axle trailer, and an axle extension. An axle extension, yeah. It had the flip axle was on the back of the axle extension, so it was spread. Because it was in Missouri, and he in order to get that scaled, he had to have it spread 14 feet 1 inches behind the 3. It depends what state you're in. Yep, some states give you 10,000 pounds on a flip axle, and if you spread it, they'll give you 20,000 or maybe even 25,000 pounds. So you get more weight on it if you push it back there farther. So, and that, you got to count the weight that 4th axle weighs. That's including the weight of the 4th axle. So he had to use the spreader bar, he had to use everything, and he moved like it was like a Cat 345 or a Komatsu PC400 excavator. And they just got it to scale legally in Missouri at that kind of weight. Never seen anybody get 110 anywhere. You might be able to do it if you put the 17.5 tires on them. You put the 17.5 tires on, you lose 500 pounds of weight per axle. If you get the 245s, the Michelin or the Bridgestone, or yeah, they'll be, I don't know what they're rated for right off the top of my head, but they should be well over 20,000 pounds an axle. 245s? Yeah. I don't think the 245s are. 235s might be. The 235s are probably lower, but yeah, I'd have to get my tire book out and look, but I think the 245s rate about the same. We put them on those 85 tonners. They're on all of those, and they're trying to get those at 20,000 pounds an axle. That's about what you can get for the disc brake. It's about 20,000 pounds. So. Mm-hmm. Right. That's. It'll save you length, it'll save you sometimes get into pilot car issues. Yep. In a lot of states, but not everywhere, but in a lot of states. Yeah. It's kind of a rule of thumb. Yeah. Yep. If you're going out west, the more weight you want, like in, for instance, Colorado and Wyoming, they'll let you start going to 22,000 pounds an axle. Yeah. Yeah. You've got the 14-1 incredible. Yep. Yep. And you've got enough length in between number 1 axle on the truck and number 2 axle. Yeah, and they don't care if they're East Coast or West Coast, just so it's spread. Yeah, that's why you start spreading that out. Yep. Yep. Yeah, getting into different states, and I don't try to think that I know all of the different laws to every state, because they change all the time. But yes, he is absolutely correct. You got to keep up on your different states as you go. But you can run East Coast trailers primarily all the way out. The only place you really start having trouble is California. That's where you really get into troubles, when you try to go into California. Right. Yep, it's a little bit different up there too. Yep. Yep. Mhm. So we got a lot of guys now that are just buying these lighter weight trailers and sticking with 3 axles and getting the long decks, and even cutting them back to 45 ton. A lot of them are buying the trucks with the big sleepers on them, and they find freight. We had one guy he ran the 85 ton for a while. I forget what he was hauling, but he hauled 400 of them with the 85 ton trailer. He made a bunch of money, and now he's going to haul jet engines, and he's going to buy one with his whole house on the back of it. And he's going to go down to a 40 ton 3 axle super lightweight trailer with like a 30-some foot deck on it, a little flip box on the front, because that's what he's going to make his money with, moving that jet engine. But he's still got a trailer that he can get a nice backhaul back and keep something loaded on it. He doesn't have to fight with pilot cars and all of that stuff. That's another thing you always got to look at, is how long are you overall? Where do you want to go with that? I had another customer that ran a big 85 ton for the longest time. I don't know if any of you know who J&L is, but they run our 3+1 trailers all over the place. And as a matter of fact, they run a lot of them with the real low neck. I think that one neck that was in that book is one of their necks, because they were putting the rock crushers up over top of those. But they had an 85 ton, and they were hauling a big rock crusher up out of the port in Savannah. He's getting rid of his 85 ton. He said he just didn't want all the escorts and trying to chase down the money to pay everybody and get paid. And he's selling the 85 ton, and he's just hauling 3+1 freight now, because there's enough of it. And that's kind of what my message is trying to get across, is that you guys look at the boards, look at the freight, look what it's paying, because you can make a lot more money by getting the right lowboy built and looking for some of those loads that are paying good to haul, versus going after 80,000 pound van freight. Just, that's kind of not big paying loads. Go ahead. Right. Right. And you probably save fuel too.
It paid $4 a month.
Right.
So sometimes it's not always about having all the axles underground. I mean, being in the right place at the right time.
And you could haul a load that you maybe couldn't because you were too heavy. And
If I'd have had that 60-ton trailer, I'd have had to stop at a cat dealer or someplace and get that spinner set up on the back. I
yeah,
could that 16,000, but I'd had to move it. I always kept it up at the front of the trailer so I could wrap a chain around it and I could pull it off, set it back the trailer up, and I could put myself together if I had to. But sometimes there's just not equipment there when you're loading.
exactly.
But it's in the way if I want all of them. So then you got to stop, pay somebody to move that out.
Yeah. And a lot of people haul them on the gooseneck, but then you got to have somebody get it up on the gooseneck for you, you know. Yeah, you can do it.
It's a simple deal.
Totally understand.
Yeah. If you go in to haul a new piece of cabinet equipment, if they got to lift your axle, pick an axle up, set it on the ground, they'll pick up. They won't charge you.
That's right.
So, I mean, it becomes, I mean, those are all little hidden expenses, and that's the thing. You'll pay them right then and right there. It's not,
Right.
oh, we'll finish.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, they want it right now nowadays. That's what got all of the hydraulic flip over axles and everything going. That
60 tons, 3 plus 1, which my empty weight was 55,000 pounds. But I could haul up around 100,000 almost anywhere in the 48 states. I went to competitor trailers, but a 3-axle, 51 ton, but was not putting that Ford axle or the axle on there. You can lighten that trailer up a lot. Because if you're going to put that bar, that spreader bar out there, you've got to have some iron about 2 to 3 feet in front of that triaxle to the deck. Because that bar puts pressure on that deck. And if it's not built right, it will snap a fuse.
that's exactly correct.
I've seen it happen. I mean, I've seen guys try to take a 55-ton and do what they should have had a 60-ton because they had a 2-axle piece and whatever. And they snapped the trailer because they've got 120,000 on the deck. The trailer's not designed for that. Both trailers, I had 26-foot deck. But my empty weight now is 43,000 pounds. The same tractor. Tractor and trailer are 43,000 pounds compared to the 3 plus 1 with 55,000 pounds. So, what was that? You said a Western Star. Yeah, 4 axles. Yeah, 20,000 foot your I did have a 20,000 pound front end. I don't have enough frame. There's another thing.
Yep.
You gotta have enough frame under that truck. I'll admit, I was blowing when I was doing that 169,000 pounds. I was blowing the frame on my truck.
Yeah.
Out there in Wyoming. So I had to quit. I mean.
Yeah, you can. There's a lot of different factors.
And enough truck and,
Yep.
you know.
If you could keep your wheelbase short, I mean, that helps. Not everybody can do that, but
In between 1 and 4, if you want to have 20,000 in all states on each axle, you know, that capability, you've got to have over 14 feet between 1 and 2. And you've got to watch your axle spacing. Is it over 54 inches? You got to say about 64.
probably 54. Yeah.
Above 54 on your triaxle. You gotta have, if you're 4 foot 6 inches on every spread, there's some things that'll lower that weight for the triaxle.
Yeah, a lot of the 60-inch axle spacing's gone away. There's a few states that like that, but not too much anymore. That's kind of going away, so that's helping. Yeah, that'll work fine. Might get a little extra weight that you don't need. I would try to keep my tractor around 25,000 or less. I don't know if you're gonna put a sleeper on it or what you're planning on doing, but, yeah.
You're ordering a new truck, if you let them build it, you say, I want a 20,000 pound front axle, I want a 22,000 liter, I want a 46,000 pound rear, you will have 31 to 33,000 pounds of tractor.
Yeah, the truck manufacturers don't think about what you really need at all.
Now, if you're pulling a 13 axle, maybe you need it. If you're pulling a 3 or a 3 plus 1, you really don't need that heavy of a truck.
Right.
You can get, but I'll guarantee you, you're gonna have a lot with that manufacturer because what they're gonna want, if you're gonna want a guarantee on that truck, and they're gonna say, well, we want it built over 1,000. So
Yeah, if you're building a new one, it probably is gonna be a challenge. Yeah.
I mean, a new truck, it'll be a challenge to stay, it'll be a challenge to stay down around 26, 27,000. He's right.
Yeah.
You need your truck around 25.
Yeah, around 25, I'd try to stay there.
Every pound over that is just costing you what you can put on there.
If you're gonna drive over the road, you're gonna have a sleeper. I mean, I always, if you can get a day cab, great, you know, but then you're gotta stay in a hotel every night, you know. That gets expensive. Yeah, yeah, if they got parking.
But a couple guys I know, let me guess, it's rough to watch them sleep in that base.
Yeah, it is. That's. It can, yeah, depends on what you're gonna haul. You know, if you're gonna haul forklifts, you better get them close together. You know, it depends on what you're gonna haul. So you really wanna kind of figure out what freight you're gonna go after. But if you get stuff that's real close, I mean, our standard cross member spacing is 20 inches. Most everybody else is 24. And if we put auxiliaries in, they're on 10-inch centers instead of 12. That means you put another cross member between the standard spacing. That way you don't break the boards. Like a forklift has got a real heavy point load. So if you park like the tire of a forklift between your cross members and you start bouncing down the road, well, you're gonna start breaking boards out. So, and it, yeah. If it's not what you do every day, then it's not, yeah.
I mean, there's little things that you can learn, but
Yep,
for a plate of steel down,
yep. All of those things work, but. In the center, a lot of people do. They leave the wood out of the center, or they'll deck around the outrigger boards and they'll make up the wood that goes in the center, and then you just leave it loose, and then you just flip them out to your outriggers. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, 1,500 pounds. 1,500 pounds heavier. Yep. For sure. You can go to a 20 and it'd be 750. Yeah. Yeah, we do a lot of 20s too. Well, so, and then sometimes Justin will cheat a little bit, and he'll maybe do 1 inch, and then he'll set the ground clearance at 5 inches instead of 6. So that's some of the tricks. You know, tricks of the trade, how close do you want to run to the road? But then you got to make sure you get the right fifth wheel height on your truck. Because if you get a truck with too high a fifth wheel, now you've skewed that. Because then you got to, if you tell us that up front, then we can build the right link so you get the right deck height in the end, which all gets back to that camber and pitch too. Yep.
In your talk, you talked about deflection and comeback. If you, when you say deflection, are you talking about deflection down to the flat or negative?
No, down to flat.
Okay.
That it's,
I understand that.
yeah.
I was just wanting to make sure that you and I, that
No.
what you were doing and what I was thinking was.
So if you don't have a detachable rear bridge, it's designed to get just about flat at full capacity. You might have quarter-inch camber left in it. You know, that's what we like to see at full capacity. Yeah. You know, when you're building something out of steel and you're forming and you're bending, you know, to get it exactly right, it's very difficult, you know. And I've been out a lot of times with guys saying, "Oh, this is going negative. I know it is. It isn't right. You know, you're gonna have to take the trailer back. It's not right." And every time I've stretched a string, there's still camber left in it. No matter how you look at it, there's always camber left. I told them, I go, "You didn't take the." A lot of times when I go out, when they've told me they've taken the camber out of the trailer, they've stepped on the height control valve. Yeah, and they can't get it off the ground. And I go, "Well, your height control valve's not set right. You just aren't getting any air in it." And then they look, and they probably were walking around in the boom well or something, and they stepped on that little rubber boot and slid down the rod. But yeah, I've been on a lot of them. You know, when we first started using the 130, a lot of people, because that 130 is a little bit more springier. Yeah, it's just you got to put a little bit more camber in there, and it's a little bit more bouncy. Well, you use a little bit less of it. That's the object. I mean, if you.
Roughly speaking, when you're talking in between the P1 and that 130,
It's 130,000 psi steel, so you know if you're probably cutting a 1/16 off of the thickness of the whole flange.
So what, weight-wise, what can you save?
Yeah, the money goes up. A couple $1,000s. What really it is it's harder to source it and get it, and because you don't buy a lot of it, and you might save an extra 700-800 pounds.